What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fry School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Coming from you from your favorite hallway. That's what people were saying yesterday. I'm not on my mic in the lab, so I'm making do with what I have. However, this is really important news to break to you guys, or probably not so important news because this was probably obvious. Now, Square Enix has pretty much, reported to their shareholders where the money went for the production of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI. According to their financial report, that's the outline that's been shared with their shareholders on page 2, I'm going to read a paragraph for those of you who were telling me that Final Fantasy was fine on PlayStation and it wasn't worth the squeeze to take it to Xbox. I want you to proverbially come outside and listen to this. I quote, "Here are our digital entertainment segment sales. In the HD game subsegment, we released multiple new titles, including major titles such as Final Fantasy XVI and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth." And then they closed quote on those two games. But profits, unfortunately, did not meet our expectations. So, there were talks that the game sales met expectations, but there's something you got to be able to understand when you're parsing the words that are being used. This is why it's very important for you to pay very close attention to what's being said and pay attention to what's not being said, because publicly traded companies like these, they're, leaders and executives, they really do know how to make things sound, less painful. So when you heard the news saying that the game met sales expectations, the one thing you didn't hear was that it met profit expectations. So with a little bit of reasoning, you can probably deduce from this that PlayStation's money hatting is only beneficial to PlayStation in the terms of selling consoles. And other than that, they're, in my opinion, a platform that in this generation is quite empty. They've been kind of that way as well, even in the last generation. It's just nobody paid attention at the point because Xbox wasn't really doing anything significant. But now that Xbox has pretty much bought really big publishers and is sitting on a bunch of games, it's now obvious that this is the game that PlayStation has been playing rather than providing value. They're spending their money on all kinds of other things rather than actually putting it into their studios, getting games out at a good measure for their own consumers who actually like their games. They prefer to try to maybe kill Xbox's perception and then make it seem like they're apparently this particular gaming platform that everybody wants to play on, when in reality right now they're getting exposed, or they're exposing themselves as just being like any other company. Square Enix, on the other hand, they have their blame to take. I think the moment they saw that Marvel's Avengers was already a flop in terms of sales and even profits, because they lost a lot of money there, that's probably when they needed to start looking at their exclusivity agreements. They didn't need to wait till Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a good game, but still flopped. They should have jumped immediately on starting to ensure that the relationship with Xbox was good. They should have created, or at least kept their PC pipeline open and quick and renegotiated and said, this is not working out for us. But now that there's new leadership, it's starting to make a lot of sense as to why they're taking a look at areas that they're weak, which is the Achilles heel that Sean Layden had said was going to basically be the biggest problem for any exclusive game. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that champion money hatting games, I want you to please take your time and look at this. Open your eyes and don't sit there and say, well, the game came exclusive to me and it wasn't on Xbox or whatever. You're playing list wars. You're shooting your own consumer foot by your own self, because at the end of the day, when they continue to kill franchises, or at least put a dent in these franchises, and if the franchises are probably locked into agreements that they can't get out of, then you're eventually going to see the effects of this. Some of you are championing Stellar Blade. I was in the comments with someone yesterday and I said, Stellar Blade only sold about 1 million plus copies. We don't really know how much it sold, and it, apparently it didn't do as well as it could have. And you know what they replied me? This is just the robot reply that you keep getting all the time when you say something like that about a game sales potential that could have been more. They said, well, I know it's a good amount of sales for a studio that's just coming out the wazoo, or, that's just a new studio that's coming on the block. And I said to myself, can you imagine this kind of thinking after spending all that money and such? Valheim, sold over 1 million copies, and that was from that's like an indie, team. They didn't have that big budget like Stellar Blade did. That's the kind of game we celebrate 1 million copies for, not a game like Stellar Blade. These so-called PlayStation fans, you will move the goalpost even to the point of absurdity. Like, literally, you... I don't even know how to... I want to be nice, but there's a little bit of frustration in how you guys will mentally, gymnasize. I don't know if that's even a word. Like, you will twist and flip things because it just really somewhat suits into some category of the square peg and the hole for you. You think it fits, but everyone's looking at you going, what are you doing? It's not compatible. So at the end of the day, I think Square Enix has a very big lesson to learn here. And I think other third-party developers have a big lesson to learn here. They've reduced their market base. They've reduced their audience. They've reduced their brand name. I'm looking at the studio, Game Science. This is the first time you guys actually brought out a big game to everybody, and you guys basically decided that because of some reason, I don't know what is, but I'm suspicious that PlayStation is the reason, you left Xbox out of the equation. When you bring out your DLC, when you bring out your next game, your only, your biggest, in my opinion, advantage is that you have a big market behind you. If it wasn't for that, Black Myth Wukong would probably also go the way of Final Fantasy. That's pretty much what it is. But I think Game Science is also smart because they're going to bring out an Xbox version, in my opinion, pretty soon. And I think they're going to basically dust their hands off of this stuff. Because those of you, that are looking at these games and are developing games, if you kind of think about it, your biggest competitors are putting their games on Xbox as well, too. Black Myth Wukong is not immune from competition. There's From Software for them to deal with. And From Software can make their game better than them. That's just the truth. Sekiro, even though it didn't sell as well as Black Myth and had to take Elden Ring, they can make that kind of game. They can make, a game like Black Myth that's actually going to be, in my opinion, a game that is formidable. And if they dare make a second Sekiro game or a game along the lines of that Tenchu or whatnot, then they really stand a chance to bring in as much sales as they did with Elden Ring because now their name is well known. And so for the Bloodborne folk that I've been telling, the reason Bloodborne, doesn't have a remake or whatever it is, it's a game that's expensive to make. Sony went ahead and paid From Software to make a game for them. They're not a cheap studio. And they sure as heck are not really a cheaper studio now. They've now become big, huge on the block. And people keep saying, well, they could just take the game and the engine and, give it to Nixus or, give it to Bluepoint or whatever. And I'm like, From Software is going to let them give their proprietary engine to another third-party developer outside somewhere? The engine that pulled in how much millions in Elden Ring, they're just going to give it away and just going to let somebody else go? Y'all are dreaming. If you want Bloodborne, be praying that 60 FPS emulation emulates itself to the fullest. Other than that, I just don't think that we can see that game without a major paradigm shift, which I'm not saying it's impossible, but it has to be a major paradigm shift. And we also need a major paradigm shift in the industry. I think Xbox understands what's going on. They know how gaming works. Perception can only take you so far. Eventually, the fissure is going to start to show. Wasn't it, those of you saying Final Fantasy Rebirth was fine, man? The first game, the Final Fantasy VII Part 1, that sold 10 million copies. Well, it sold 10 million copies, but you guys on PlayStation like Call of Duty. You guys on PlayStation like Epic Games' Fortnite. So at the end of the day, even though they could have sold more, because if they had the Xbox pipeline and a PC pipeline immediately on their side, they could have done well because, again, you've killed the hype. You've killed the expectation. You've killed people actually realistically looking forward to your game. So they're going to wait. I saw one of my, longtime audience members on Twitter saying, man, I would love to play Final Fantasy 16 because the game is out on PC. And you know what he said? He said, but I'm going to wait because if they made me wait for this long, I'm going to wait for them, which means he's going to buy it bottom dollar. And I'm also going to wait till it's bottom dollar to buy it because they wasted my time or they made me wait, which is fine. Wasn't going to buy it on the PlayStation. The performance was abysmal, still abysmal on PC. So when they patch it up like they did Jedi, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So this is very interesting coming out of the gaming industry this morning, and I'm really excited to see that there's some sense going in and teaching this stuff. I really enjoy it. To me right now, I'm having fun. This is why I'm making so many videos, because I remember when I was telling you all this stuff. Some of you, I remember your YouTube user tags, man. Don't hide now. Don't hide. Let's talk. Let's talk, because the reality is starting to dawn, and it was always going to dawn this way. But I'll stop now. It's enough, running and tuning horns all over the place. This was not something that's rocket science to have seen. I think, knowing what the industry leaders have been saying, this is stuff that we got from the industry leaders. We knew that this was inevitable. Thanks for watching the video. Abandon fanboyism. Get skill. Peace out.